Hello and welcome back. Now, we've spent the last few videos looking at system development life cycle. And as you will recall, that whole process is quite long-winded. You have 6 stages with a definite start, a definite finish, lots of detail put into each stage. Hard to go back if a mistake is made, but the whole idea is that it's been done thoroughly, so by the time you get to the end, everything is fine. Now, prototyping is a much faster way of going about things. It's where there is a quick development. You want to produce something to see if it's going to work. So, for example, here is a model. I'm sure some of you will have been reminded that you made something like this in years 7 and 8. But let's just say this is a prototype, and the prototype is that you want to make a full-scale go-kart. So maybe this prototype was giving an idea of what the shape and the feel of the final article would be, what type of wheels there would be, how it would actually be steered. So this would be a prototype. So prototyping in the real world is making sure that there's proof of concept, that if you were to go the full way, it would actually work. Some of you may watch Mythbusters. Mythbusters is where they have all these problems to solve, and they do things full scale, but in just about all of their episodes they have a prototype, a much smaller version, basic materials, and just to see if what they're going to do works before they go full tilt on it. Recently there was an article in the papers about tornadoes in America, and the idea of building 300-kilometer walls in Tornado Alley at a great height in the hope that it would actually slow these tornadoes down. That would be an astronomical cost, and so before anything like that would be done, prototyping would be done where you have models put in wind tunnels to see if this concept would work. Prototyping is used for lots of other reasons as well. Sometimes you have a designer who has an idea, he's trying to meet the client's requirements, and the client is having a problem visualizing what it would look like. If the designer can come up with a model, then the client has a much better idea about what is being produced. That will help the client to come up with some more requests or some more requirements more specific to their needs. It also gives the client a much more positive feel about the whole project, because there's a real amount of closer cooperation and communication when the designer and the client have a clear idea about each other. You also want to make sure, if you're doing something brand new, something which has been untested and untried, that you're using a prototype to start with. Again, as we said earlier, about proof of concept. Also, if you're putting in a lot of money or there's a potential danger, then again, prototyping is a really good idea. The features of prototyping are these. No bells or whistles. Prototype is very basic. There's nothing particularly clever about it. It is simply just, an idea which needs to be looked at. If you're dealing with a computer system, then you're going to have basic inputs and outputs. You're not too worried about the look. You're just wanting the basic information being put in. So the idea of security and backups within a prototype might not be needed. Disadvantages of a prototype is that you can quite easily make lots and lots of small improvements on the previous version. So a lot of effort can go in, and you'd only get a small improvement on the previous version. Because of the hurry of trying to get a product out, then you're going to have issues with possibly missing out on important features, like the idea of backups and security. With prototyping, unlike the system development life cycle, you do not have discrete stages, start and finish. So there's no formal end to prototyping. You could go on and on and on. The danger with that is that the scope of the project can increase. So where you would have a specific design for a specific requirements, if you're prototyping, then people get the idea that we can add this on and add that on, and all of a sudden the project gets much bigger. So prototyping has a danger of increasing the scope, whereas within the system development life cycle, it is very defined. And finally, with the SDLC, you get lots of documentation. In prototyping, there's a lot less. So the thing to think about with prototyping is that it's primarily used to get a product out in a much quicker way. And to get things going, you need to create a basic model so that the designer and the clients are on the same page, that they understand what is needed and development can take place. One of the downsides to prototyping is that you can have lots and lots of revisions and versions with only a marginal increase improvement as you go. So that's prototyping. Thanks a lot.